Hi, class. Let's start the chapter 2. Share the screen, and voila. Okay, so in this chapter, we'll be talking about the writing effectively for your audience, purpose, and medium. We kept talking about this chapter, so I hope you find it an interesting chapter. Now, communication is a major and essential part of the business, as you're aware of it. And in this chapter, our learning objective is about understand the importance of skillful writing in a business. We will describe the writing process and the effective writing strategies. We will describe uh, the use of computer tools to facilitate the planning and messages. We will describe also the use of computer tools to facilitate the drafting messages, describe the use of computer tools to facilitate the revising messages, and the purpose and the form of letters, what type of letters there, the purpose and form of memorandums, what kind of memos, why we have memos, and describe the purpose and form of emails, and understand the nature and the business use of other communication tools like social media, and describe how technology will continue to impact the communication in the future. Now, what we do in general, trying to reduce writing process, first we are doing a planning, and then in the planning, we determine the goals, why we are writing, we analyzing the audience, who is going to be listening to us, then we gather the data, what we're going to put there, and we analyze and organize information, which part goes up, which part comes to second, and then we choose the form. But while we're doing this, which is this planning, we move to the drafting. In the drafting, we need to be flexible, explain what flexibility is all about. But the most important, we need to keep going and use your own favorite strategies. And then after the drafting, we do some kind of a revising, which is we revise the content, structures, and format. We edit the sentence and the words, and we do a proof reading or proofread. So in general, when you're planning the message, we said that we determine the goal, we analyze the audience, we gather the information, we analyzing the organizing the information, and choosing the form, channel, and format depend who you're targeting, how quick you want to target these people, how effective you want to be. Now, I want you to make this call, and it is a hot, humid summer, and you manage a hotel, basically, in a busy city where the air condition, has stopped working. Now, how will you communicate the current guest about this problem? How can the planning steps we've talked about it help? These steps, how we're going to communicate with them. And how you might respond to a guest complaint letter that comes to you a week after the incident. What would you do with this letter? We said there is computer tools that you can use and how you can plan utilizing these computer tools. The complex writing project can be helped really by using, because things in your mind, you want to move it to another way of expressing. So you might want to use some kind of planning tools like Gantt chart. And I didn't see that many, but if you're writing a lot, then the Gantt chart would be a good idea. You might want to use some kind of a scheduling tools like electronic calendars. You want to do as you did, some of you did in the assignment. We can have a research tools, which is internet research and RSS, and might have a organizing tool like the database, and presenting tools like you can have a, screens, cut and paste of media presenters, and statistical programs utilizing them. Here is some drafting tips. When you're trying to draft, first of all, avoid the perfectionist. And the reason is that you want everything that comes out of your mind to be on the paper. So if you are trying to do some perfectionist from a first stage, that might be kind of stopping your mind from working directly, expressing what you want to do. But as I said, if you can kind of a stock, you just keep going writing, and I can give you an example of how we learned how to write on utilizing PCs when it was only a PC in that time. And use any strategies that will keep you working productively. Now, there is, as we know, all of us, there is computer tools for drafting. You can use the help feature for adjusting setting, understanding how to do it, built-in styles and themes. You can use the save setting and the speech recognition. And I think each one has its own favorite. One of my favorite is a speech recognition and built-in style and themes. Then when you draft it, comes the revision steps, which is the content revising, editing for the styles, and then you do what you call the proofreading in the end, which is I call it editing and auditing. Auditing usually. Now, computer tools for revising and editing, you can use in a word processor, find and replace, comment and track, like you can comment and track, you can do auto correcting, spell checking. Now there is other tools now is available, also can use treasure, grammar, and style check. These are all embedded within the, the word processing features. But what kind of a messages, business messages form? As we know, in the old days, mostly was letters. Now there is letters also. You can do memos, you can do an email, text, an instant message, and social media. And I always tell you about know the limitation of each one of them, whether the effectiveness, the speed, the coverage, all these things. So the question is, which one do you use more often in your work? If you say you're working, what do you use usually? Which one do you see businesses using usually? And which one are used less or not at all? And why? Now, letters. It is a traditional format used to corresponding outside an organization, usually you send letters outside. It's not as formal as once it used to be when you write a letter, and is strategic for achieving business goals. You know, now there is lots of laws attached to writing emails, replacing the letters. This is the sample of writing a letter. Take a look at it, have an understanding how a letter is written and how it's drafted and how it's supposed to look like in general. In a business, Memos. We said we do letters, we might do memos, which is memos usually written internally all the time. It's a more formal than email, formatted with, date, to, from, subject, meant to share a factual, problem-related info. It can be classified. It could be as a report and being replaced by email for the internal usage. This is typical memo, usually short message, but to, from, CC if it's necessary, date, and reply subject, my meeting of the patient safety committees. We agreed that that's the memos. Now, in this pool, you make the call memo or no memos. Let's say all the employees you manage have an email access, in which instant you would send a memo instead of an email, and why? We'll stop and see. Each one will evaluate each one of them. Now let's talk about emails, which is this is mostly is today is used by businesses. There is an advantage and disadvantage. Advantage is it's a quicker than letters, definitely, or a memos. It's eliminate the telephone tags, call me, I'll call you, or something. It's a speeds up the decision, and is provide a written record for senders and receivers. The disadvantage, sometimes, most of the time, is not confidential, can be misunderstood or improperly used to avoid difficult live conversation, may not communicate writer emotional intent, may be ignored or went to the junk mail, and costly in the term of time employees spend on an email. So when you write, you have to draft well, you have to make sure is you explaining it well, all the process that we spoke about, how you draft an email. But an email format is there is a headers include to CC or carbon copy, BCC, blank carbon copy, subject, which is can be definitely you have to have a subject, which is 5 to 7 word, clear and descriptive. Uh, it's like a kind of executive summary, but in a 5 to 7 word for your email. Solicitation, like whether it's formal, informal, or generic, depends on the relationship with the recipient, whether it's a friend, or a coworker, or a boss, and it's a different thing. The message has to be to the point, and a closing informal or more formal in keeping with one, and attachment include only what reader needs. You don't attach too many things there. And you want to make sure you don't CC everybody, also only the stakeholders. This is a sample, and everybody has a similar email. Try to understand how simple emails can be written and try to see how effective it can be. Now, there is some etiquette in the emails. So the following breaches in email etiquette can make you work or the goodwill you are trying to build less effective. Sometimes you use a vague as like a meeting. So you makes you less effective. So using a subject meeting line, which meeting, what time? It just lots of time I get an email from, one of the students says, oh, but there is no subject. You might be taking 2 courses with me or 1 course in a different class than the, it's especially in the beginning, it would be difficult for me to recognize. We'll explain that to you. Hitting the main point, using the BCC field to be a sneaking communication, not deleting strings of replies unnecessary to the recipient, so you will see lots of back and forth and too long. And worst thing you can do is ignoring grammars and mechanics. Three categories of message. There is a casual, informal, and formal. Casual is resembles conversation, best limited to a close friend. You rather to do, using other tools. If you want to write an email in the business sense, it's a different. If you want to talk casual, use WhatsApp or something, or SMS is better. In the informal, is more organized and well structured, and then formal is kind of a resembles a report. All good business emails are written to achieve a communication goals, as we said earlier, and promote a goodwill and present a professional image. So you need to look when you're writing an email, is your message needed? Is your message for routine or for sensitive material? You need to look, is your message a spam? Is your recipient is less correct? Have you proofread carefully? And does your signature avoid offensive quotas? Can you bring you some examples about these issues? Now we said there is an emails, and then there is a text, and there is an messages also. I am. It is used for promotion in the business, for brand awareness, for customer relations, time sensitive message. Don't send a message, for example, a week later after somebody's, it's just a respond, it has to be a time sensitive. And it's typically formed with a maximum of 150 characters. Sometimes some tips for using a text or IM. Cover all the critical information, keep it short, or what they call it KISS. Strive for clarities, always to be clear to the point. Maintain a conversational tone. You might want to add some icons there to make it more conversational. Adapt the message to the audience and keep language and content very professionally. Look at this one, for example. Here, you want to invite somebody for a lunch or a dinner, says this is two type of message. Mariana Smith is a vegetarian. Where shall we take her to a lunch today? Mariana Smith is a vegetarian. Shall we go to one fish house or a exploitation or a Mandarin house, or all are available at noon? You can add a different way of writing, so you know better effective text. Now when we talk about social media is a very sensitive to the public, especially if you're doing something in a business. We'll talk more details of why different social media has a different perspective, and you should understand it. So, but here, which businesses or brands are using social media well? Number one most popular, third most used, third most popular. Look at them and see how these are used. And what do they gain or lose from using social media? And There's lots of example we can talk about them. Social media uses usually the communicating with the customers or client, you publicizing or promoting product, communicating internally, you might be using that for the networking and evaluating potential employees also. So nothing on this side is confidential. You have to know that your employer may view them also. So there is some warning that a social media monitoring service found that more than 90% of recruiters and hiring manager have visited a candidate profile, 69% rejected and 68% hired. So I always tell my students, make sure your social media tools are well presented by you for certain goals. Now, if we're looking for the future, we know that the development in the social media, it keeps going on, and mobile personal business solutions, we can talk about these things, and the cloud computing, that's the new trend for the last 10 years, not a new trend anymore. We can discuss these things, how these working. But in the summary, technology is changing the way we communicate in a business world. Effective communication use computer tools to plan, draft, and revise their message. Usually, professional writers will adopt the following types of documents to fit the corporate culture of their workplace. I also attached a video for you how to work as a group and a video how to solve your tech problem. But overall, these are the things that documents to fit the corporate culture in their workplace. It's a letters, memos, emails, text and messaging, social media, and communication apps. Thank you very much.